Hey, Janice.
Hi, Anthony.
Today we're going to continue our, back-to-back series on home ownership versus investing. And today we'll focus on the 6 reasons why investing might be better than home ownership, right?
Okay, so opposite of the last podcast.
Correct. So
All
last time
right.
I started, yeah. So last time I started with a quote from Warren Buffett that started with, all things considered, the third best investment I ever made was the purchase of my home, right? But I'm gonna finish Mr. Buffett's quote on the same sentence, and the end of that quote is, though I would have made far more money had I instead rented and used the purchase money to buy stocks. So I think the implication is that when he says that his home was his third best investment, he means it sort of from a sentimental and a memories and having a homestead kind of point of view. But in terms of pure dollars and cents, I'm pretty sure investing would have crushed the home ownership, like crushed it,
Yeah,
especially for a legendary, I don't want to call him a stock picker, but let's call him an investor like Warren Buffett.
right. Right. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to invest, and he would have done
And that
very well with the money put in. Yes.
and that's actually one of the main points. I mean, not everybody knows how to invest properly, so maybe it's better you're better off with home ownership. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over the assumptions again before we go into our 6 reasons why investing is better than home ownership. And what I mean is when we're comparing these two options, we're really comparing just the down payment and any big mortgage paydowns, and versus what would have happened if you taken those same dollars and invested them in, I don't know, the S&P 500. So we're not comparing mortgage payments, taxes, maintenance, or fixing the roof of the water boiler.
Okay.
The assumption is those costs, if you sort of amortize them and spread them out month to month, they will be roughly the same as if you had rented. Right. So I don't want to hear that argument. Oh well, home ownership is better because you don't pay any rent. You do.
Right.
When you own a home, there are so many other expenses and upkeep costs aside from the down payment.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
So to argue that it's once you buy a home it's free living, that's just not it's not
No,
true.
they might not be homeowners that are saying that because I can tell you it's not free.
Okay. And yes, you can argue with the assumption whether or not it's exactly the same, market rent versus mortgage plus tax plus maintenance. But just look, there's going to be places where renting is better. There's going to be places where home ownership is a little bit better. But I would say on average, it does tend to balance out if you're comparing apples to apples. Because I always get the argument, oh yeah, well, owning that condo in Soho, that's 1,000 square feet. Well, it's cheaper than renting. I'm actually coming up with a terrible example, but just some ridiculous example in Queens from Coming to America movie and that kind of thing.
Or comparing to the burbs compared to
Right.
the city. I mean, that is not a comparison. You cannot compare that.
All right. So now that we have the assumptions out of the way, let's jump into the 6 reasons why investing is better than home ownership. So the number one, just bottom line reason is ownership doesn't just outperform real estate; it crushes it, like historically crushes it.
Like
So I
not
have
comparable. Yeah.
it's not even yeah. So okay, I have here. I know you can't see this, Janice, but I have a chart showing house values versus stock prices since 1991. And if you're on the podcast, you can't see it. I'll throw the links into the show notes. But basically, home ownership is a pretty nice upward line, and stocks is like a rocket ship. If you're looking at our graph, so it's just not even close. And there's literally since 1991 at least no instance where home ownership has done better than stocks. Like not even a single year,
Not once, not even
not
for a
even
minute.
once.
Wow.
And so it's just almost ridiculous to even argue otherwise. Now you might be thinking, oh well, that's if you include like the Boondocks and the Panhandle and the Montana. Let's talk about San Francisco, New York, the real housing markets for anyone who has their nose up like that, right?
The real, sorry, you Montanaans or however you would say that. That's for Montana.
But so I do have the a chart showing stocks versus New York City housing prices, which is supposedly one of the cream of the crop, like one of the safest real estate investments in the world, and I do think it is. It is safe. Same outcome. pretty good
Interesting.
upward trend on the New York City housing prices. Stock market, boom! Just like a Tesla rocket.
Like a
going
whole,
straight into-
like a whole nother chart you need
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, they're not just you're not just going to beat the value of your home price. You're going to crush it. All right. I'm not saying what that should be the final decision making factor, but just keep that in mind.
It's good information to know that it crushes it. I like the way you say that too. It isn't
I
just
mean,
like
it's just not even
this
close.
is little. It
Yeah.
just destroys it.
It's like hilariously different, especially over time when you could keep compounding, because houses don't compound that much. They just don't.
No.
Yeah.
It's, you know what it feels like? This is funny because I feel more of like you purchase your house, you live in it into retirement, but it just shows I'm like a safe person. I want like the walls and I'm not a good investor because I don't like risk and I don't like, it's safe, but it also shows you what my little trend is going like this, whereas yours is going straight through the roof.
And there's no right or wrong answer here. I mean, if it's going to cause you agita and stress to be in the markets and, it causes you health problems to the point where you constantly can't sleep, then obviously the home ownership path is just, better for you, right? Because what really matters, not money, not necessarily, right?
No,
So,
it's nice, but
yeah. All right. Reason number 2. I'm not a big fan of this one, but I know a lot of people say this. Another reason why investing is better than home ownership is because you get to feel like you own a little part of the business. I mean, I guess that's true, but I don't think that trumps the gains. I mean, the really reason people invest is to make money, right?
right. Seems like you're going to keep coming back to that one. Like it just crushes it. It just simply
absolutely crushes
it.
it. Yeah. And also, by the way, if you invest the way you should be investing, which is diversified and probably with an index fund, do you really feel like you own a piece? Because you're owning a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of a business.
Correct. And there's so many businesses. I mean, do you really have a handle on any of them? Yeah.
But
so
if this is important,
maybe a little, but
I mean, yeah. So if this is important for you and you want to feel like you own something, think of it more like you own a piece of America, baby. Right?
Yeah.
Like the whole American economy. That could feel kind of nice.
That pie, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, to think that you own a part of like Microsoft or Starbucks, I don't know. That feels a little like a bit of a reach. All right.
Although I wouldn't mind owning a part of Microsoft, and that'd be kind of nice. But
I mean, you keep thinking that Apple is kind of eating their lunch in terms of popularity and trends, but Microsoft is still churning out product and profits.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, we're on Skype right now. That's a Microsoft product, yeah?
Perfect. See?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so the next reason, owning stocks or investing is way better diversification than owning your home. I mean, that's,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that can't even be argued, can it?
No, because you're investing in a whole bunch, not one house that could. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the only argument against that is if you were put all your money in one stock, that'd be kind of silly.
Yeah, that seems scary and not a great investment.
So we had an estate like that where it was all in one stock and it tanked. Not great.
Yeah.
But so don't do that.
Don't do that.
So we're assuming when we talk about investing that you're going to be diversified, hopefully in an index fund. We talked about index funds versus mutual funds. Versus you own one house on one street in one neighborhood in one state. And what you're hoping that that particular house on that street in the neighborhood in that state does well, right?
Yes. Yep. And that makes sense if you think about it that way.
Okay, next reason why investing is better than home ownership. No headaches. Literally no, well, I'm going to argue against myself in a second. Yeah. All right, but okay, look, the ownership process of stock is username, password, click to buy. Done.
That sounds a little easier than cleaning, new roof, maintenance on the yard.
I wasn't even getting up to that. I was thinking broker, open houses, real estate attorney, due diligence, inspection.
Right. I'm thinking about the everyday thing. I mean, home ownership is not easy.
Yeah, and if you want to compare everyday things, well, I don't want to compare that because cleaning and those things, Janice, you would have to do if you rented anyway. That's just home living, right? So that, but yeah, in terms of anything that's like fixing the boiler or the roof, that is an owner's responsibility. Yeah. Versus owning a stock and just like, let me log in and see if I'm up or not. Up? Yeah, I'm pretty good, but I'm not going to look at this for another 20 years anyway, so let me log out. Right?
Correct. It's not a daily thing where you, have to check on everything every day. Correct.
Right. The only thing I want to caveat is if you are one of those maniacal people who tracks the market every day because your money is tied into it, and every up makes you happy and every low makes you really snappy with your kids, that's probably not, that's probably more headache than homeownership.
Yeah.
So you got to watch out for that. You got to know who you are.
But correct me if I'm wrong, like the market, you're not, I mean, there are people that do look every day, but you probably shouldn't be looking every single day, right? Maybe over time.
There's a lot of things you shouldn't do that people do anyway. Would you agree?
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother podcast. We could have a list miles long, but that just seems like something like your retirement, your anything. You just kind of look and then you look again, make sure you're, check in with it, making good decisions, but not every day. It just seems a little too stressful.
But I do know folks who do that. And
I know.
Yeah. So as long as you know yourself, then you can make the healthiest decision for your mental health, right? Right. Next advantage of investing over homeownership is liquidity, right? In a pinch, in an emergency, you need to sell, right? Click, sell, done. Cash in the bank. That's the investment version, by the way, not the home version, in case anyone was doubting
that is not the homeowner version.
So I would say obviously moving and selling is ridiculously, like, that's months. So I would say the best comparable is taking out a HELOC or a second mortgage on your home to access your equity. But even that, Janice, how long do you think it would take you to get a second mortgage or a HELOC if you really needed one?
A long time, but it actually is a long time. And we looked into it not long ago, and even though we have equity, there are still parameters that they only. It was so complex and so complicated, even with our equity. We just said, never mind. Like it's not easy. It's not easy. And there's a lot of documentation. It's essentially start doing an entire other mortgage from the beginning. Do you remember when you had to provide all your statements and you had to
you had to do it all over again, even though you have an existing loan? Well, I guess that makes sense, but still, that's nuts.
But they just, what, I get it because they want to make sure they're secure when they're loaning you the money and that you're going to be able to pay it back. I get it, but it is not easy. It's not a quick. If I said I needed money, I'm not going HELOC. That's not.
If you want to compare apples to apples, there are portfolio loans you can do where you can borrow against the value of your stocks without having to sell them and trigger gains. And this only applies if your portfolio is large enough. But it sounds like getting a second mortgage or HELOC, it would be about the same amount of a headache as getting a portfolio loan. So that seems to net out. Interesting. Yeah. And the final reason why investing is better than owning a home. And this is pretty psychological, but there's a lot less keeping up with the Joneses. Okay? So, Janice, when was the last time you were, chatting with another mom or a friend or a neighbor and you guys were eyeballing each other's portfolio size?
Well, not so often. As in never.
Right. But when it comes to things that are more visible signs of wealth, like a watch, a handbag, your car, or your house, is it fair to say there's a lot of comparing going on?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether you want to or not. I mean, I do love my car and I get in it and I'm happy, but you're right. You do a lot of comparison. And I mean, I don't know how you are, but we watch the Home and Garden HGTV all the time. So we're constantly looking how we can keep up with the Joneses. New kitchen. Well, we could do a new backsplash. And so you're right. It is a keeping up.
So from a husband's point of view, just to go off on a tangent, whenever Hannah and I, whenever we go to like a house party or somebody's barbecue, I'm always just braced for the car ride back when I'm going to hear did you see that kitchen counter? And I know what she means when she asks, did you see it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm just
good in ours, but you're half joking, but that is the reality. Yeah.
But so with stocks, you're less likely, let's say, to go out of your comfort zone or what's reasonable for your budget. I mean, there's really not really much budgeting for stock ownership, but there's not going to be a lot of stretching or going outside of what you should be doing because you don't have these emotional forces tugging at you. Whereas maybe upgrading to a bigger house or redoing your kitchen or you're getting a pool. I don't know, what people. Yeah, things that maybe don't make a lot of financial sense, but you feel compelled to do it. Yeah. Right.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't go to these same dinner parties and people leave their portfolio out and you go, wow, their stocks are better.
Oh, my statement is on the table.
Oh, look at that. Oops. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. Yeah. That's not really something that most people compare.
Well, so that's all I have. I mean, I want to leave it to you, the listener, to make your own decisions. Hopefully we gave a pretty balanced, both sides of the story. So again, if you haven't been listening, the prior episode, the one right before this, we talk about the advantages of home ownership over investing, and you can please listen to both and see what you think, and please share in the comments where you land and what you think are the most important reasons for your decision. Okay, hope you like this format. This what do you call this? Versus or comparison? I don't know what to call this.
Yeah,
But,
just kind of giving you both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate, both sides. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you as always, Janice. Thank you, listeners, and we'll talk again soon.
We'll talk
Bye now.
soon.